Boom, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Nolan Hawkeye Anthony YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. I cannot believe that we are already here, but we are. It is, of course, that time of year. It is college football season, and I'm stoked. I know you're stoked. Hopefully, this is going to be a fantastic season for the Iowa Hawkeyes. You guys know I'll be doing game previews weekly for every single Iowa Hawkeye football game, previewing the Iowa Hawkeyes and, of course, their opponent. It is stunning. Time absolutely flies. We are about a week and a half, or actually a week and 1 day as of this recording, away from the start of the Iowa Hawkeye football season. So as per usual, during the span of this YouTube channel, I will be doing a game-by-game preview of the Iowa Hawkeyes, not the same as the weekly, but a prediction rather of how Iowa season will go based on my expert opinion. And of course, what is needed from Iowa in order to achieve this outcome. Before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys to consider smashing that subscribe button. Support your boy. Goes a long way. If you like and comment on the video, it also helps the algorithm out. So I would greatly appreciate it. Without further ado, let's get into this. Let's start here, guys. The Iowa Hawkeyes enter the season, I think, with the most preseason expectations that they've had in several years. I remember when I was a little kid, it seemed like a fairly regular occurrence for Iowa to be in the preseason top 20, let alone the top 25. Not that the preseason rankings are the most important thing in the world, but it does measure a confidence meter for each program going into a particular season. And in the end, the season will be played out, and that is what it is. But honestly, guys, the top 25 is fairly accurate. Some years more than others, but it's nonetheless worth noting Iowa checks in at 25 in the AP rankings and number 25 in the coaches rankings. So there is some preseason optimism. I think a lot of people have the feeling and the analysis that Iowa is a potential dark horse contender for the college football playoff. In fact, a lot of people love their chances due to the schedule the Iowa Hawkeyes have in their first ever season in the expanded Big Ten, with the additions of Oregon, USC, UCLA, and Washington. It's absolutely crazy that those teams are finally going to be a part of the Big Ten. We totally live in a brave new world in the landscape of college sports. So a lot of people like Iowa's schedule and really do believe that Iowa is a dark horse contender and might be able to run the table if their offense is able to improve. And from what I can tell, I think there is optimism from media members that Tim Lester will be able to improve this Iowa Hawkeye offense. Now, ultimately, if number one, those guys are not as intimately connected with the Iowa Hawkeyes as you and I are as fans, massive fans of the University of Iowa. And we all know that Iowa, a lot of it will depend on Kirk Ferentz, how much he is willing to relinquish to the offensive coordinator in Iowa's game-by-game game plan. For the last couple of years, Iowa has won games on the shoulders of its defense and its special teams, and they have absolutely been okay winning games ugly. In fact, Iowa, the last 3 years, have absolutely defied the stats and the game predictors in which stats are used to make those predictions. There was a stat that I read last year, it was either last year or the year before, where there's only been two or three teams. I don't have the stats, so hopefully I remember it correctly. But there's only been two or three teams since I think it's either the 1990s or 1980s that have been able to win 10 games or more. Actually, it may have even been less than that. It may have been 8 games or more, averaging less than 20 points a game offensively. And I think the other was like Florida State or something like that. Regardless, Iowa was in that list. And that stat was commonly used to show people how out of the norm it is that Iowa has been able to win football games despite or in spite of their lack of offensive success. Last year, Cade McNamara went down. Last year, Caleb Johnson, Iowa's starting running back going into the season, dealt with a lot of injuries, which meant LaShawn Williams and some of the true freshmen needed to emerge, which is definitely going to play a factor in Iowa's offensive talent this year, just because setbacks happen in a year. In the grand scheme of things, sometimes it is a positive. Iowa lost Luke Lachey. They also lost Eric All. And because of this, Iowa was able to give much needed reps to redshirt freshman at the time, Addison Ostrenga, the former Iowa baseball commit who switched to football, and true freshman out of the state of Missouri, Zach Ortworth. To me, when evaluating this Iowa team, I want to start here, the offense, okay? And we're going to get to the game-by-game predictions, but I kind of want to give you guys my thoughts on the Iowa Hawkeyes going into the season. And I'm going to start with each unit and then talk about Iowa as a whole. Before we do that, I do also want to mention, and it is worth noting, and I posted a video on this, Kirk Ferentz will be suspended for game 1 alongside John Budemeyer for Iowa's opening contest next week against Illinois State. I don't think, which I'll get to momentarily, I don't think in the grand scheme it's going to play too much of a factor. Illinois State is a solid FCS program. I believe they're FCS, but Iowa should be okay. And it will provide an excellent opportunity for the coach in waiting, assistant head coach Seth Wallace, who is formerly the linebacker, or well, he actually is still the linebackers coach, but I believe he's also co-defensive coordinator. Actually, no, he's assistant head coach and the linebacker coach. He might be the co-defensive coordinator, but it's fairly obvious at this point that, and I wasn't so sure of this when we first heard of the announcement. And I remember, again, you guys can check out this video. I posted it. I remember 2 years ago, I did a video detailing who the possible Kirk Ferentz replacements could be. And I did have Seth Wallace on that list, although I did not have him as high as what he perhaps is currently situated as. So that will be very interesting to see how Seth Wallace goes about it and whether he kowtows to the way Kirk Ferentz wants things. And we basically see the exact same team in almost every single facet, or whether he is much more open to risk and airing it out and allowing his offense to take chances. So now that that's out of the way, and I'll revisit it when I do the game-by-game prediction. Iowa's offense. The number one storyline is the quarterback battle. Now, overall, I Iowa's offense and the success of Iowa's offense, I don't think is 100% correlated with the success of the quarterback. It definitely matters, but Iowa always will be, under Kirk Ferentz, a run-first offense. So if Iowa is able to have a productive offensive line and a productive run game, everything else will take care of itself. I do think that Iowa has 3 okay to solid options in which to plug into the starting quarterback position. We did hear from Kirk Ferentz recently when he was talking about his suspension. He was asked about the quarterback situation, and he stated that if a game were to start today, when he answered the question, that the quarterback list would be Cade McNamara 1, Brendan Sullivan 2, and Marco Lainez 3, which to me is not surprising in the least. I've told you guys this from day one. Kirk Ferentz is going to do everything possible to get a return on investment from Marco Lainez, especially after now he has a recruiting violation to boot. So the 2 key contenders, as Iowa fans well know, are Brendan Sullivan and Cade McNamara. I know a lot of people do like Marco Lainez, and I do as well. I've liked him since he was coming out of high school. He definitely has a good work ethic. He has a stereotypical quarterback look, okay? And what I'm referring to is the Tom Brady look, the chiseled, 6'2", 6'3", 6'4", run of the mill, straight and narrow, straight edge quarterback. But I don't think he's quite ready. However, I will say, much like I argued in years past, because of how good Iowa's defense and special teams are, I would totally be okay if Kirk Ferentz were to take a risk and insert a younger quarterback that might not be as talented in the here and now, but has a higher upside and will be better when all is said and done. If you have a good defense that you can rely on, you can take a bigger risk by putting a quarterback that might not be ready in that exact moment, but will be ready as time goes on and they have more reps. But Kirk Ferentz is not that dude. He is not that dude. It's not going to happen. So Marco Lainez, unless there's major injuries and Cade McNamara and Brendan Sullivan are totally sucking and playing terrible ball, which would mean likely the disaster of the football season, although Iowa, again, has defied the odds in winning football games without solid quarterback play. But it's highly unlikely that Marco Lainez will see reps this year, okay, in meaningful reps. He might get in there for an injury or if Iowa is up by 30, 40 points going into the fourth quarter, but that's about it. And even still, those reps would likely go to Brendan Sullivan if Marco Lainez is the starter. Personally, I think Brendan Sullivan should be the starter. As I said, I'm okay with Marco Lainez, and if Iowa went that route to try and get Marco Lainez ready and have, as I said, a higher upside, but it's not going to happen. I think Brendan Sullivan is far more equipped to run a Tim Lester offense than Cade McNamara. Cade McNamara, to me, has major concerns with potential injuries. He has lost almost 2.5 football seasons due to injuries. One being it was either 1.5 or 1 at Michigan and 1 at Iowa. He only played a few games last year for Iowa before being injured for the entirety of the season. So this guy is definitely injury prone, and it's not surprising because of how small he is. And while Cade McNamara is more athletic than like a Spencer Petras or a Nate Stanley. He is no Lamar Jackson or one of those quarterbacks, Chase Young or any of those quarterbacks that can elude the potential injury-laden defensive linemen and linebackers that would lay the smackdown on him. That's not Cade McNamara. His wheels are only sufficient to maybe scamper for a first down here and there, but that is about it. I would prefer Iowa to go with Brendan Sullivan. I think he has the legs. I think he has the leadership. And honestly, I think he's either even slightly better than Cade McNamara at throwing the football. In almost every regard, I think Brendan Sullivan at this point is a better quarterback. Now, that's my personal opinion. We'll see if Brendan Sullivan is able to eventually get the nod. At the end of the day, I want Iowa to win football games. So whoever the quarterback is, doesn't matter as long as they are winning football games. But I will always give you guys a true and honest analysis of how I think the quarterback play is going. Ultimately, though, Iowa is going to go with Cade McNamara at least week 1. I think that is a 95% probability. And we'll see how Cade McNamara does. Again, my overall feeling about the Iowa offense is if the offensive line is able to take the step forward, as I believe they will be able to do, and I'll circle back to that, and the run game is able to be there, that will provide much needed area for Cade McNamara to get comfortably back into the swing of things. So lastly, when it comes to the Iowa offense, a lot of people have the assumption that there is no talent on the offense, and it's not true, guys. It is not true. Does Iowa have the most talented wide receiver room when you compare it to an Ohio State or a Michigan or an Alabama or no. Okay. But they do have more talent than a lot of people are aware. They have speed, they have athleticism. And to me, the difference between last year and this year is going to be two major things. One, Tim Lester. And secondly is the improvement of the offensive line, which is totally experienced and has been here as a unit for multiple years. Everybody across the line has multiple games of starting experience, if not multiple years of starting experience. The only thing that the offensive line is missing, as I detailed in the position preview, is that dude, Tristan Wirfs or a Tyler Linderbaum. But are there guys that could turn into that? Of course. Tim Lester, do I believe that he is going to be this godsend that a lot of Iowa fans are hoping for? No. Okay. And to tell you the truth, guys, what we've seen thus far has not been very positive. I will admit that Tim Lester likely is not showing his entire playbook in the spring game or in the Kids Day open practice and things like that as to not get it on tape. But the offense obviously still has a ways to go. I don't think as far as scheme goes, it's going to be this totally evolved Oregon or USC Lincoln Riley style offense. It's just not going to happen. But will there be subtle differences? Yes. And will that make the difference? Yes. Where I think Tim Lester makes a big difference is his understanding of the offense, which I do believe is better than Brian Ferentz. And I do like Tim Lester's mindset of playing to the strengths of his players and calling plays to the strength of his players rather than trying to fit players into a system that are not, their talent is not geared towards that style of offense. Moving on, Iowa special teams, before we get to the defense. I think this Iowa team, yet again, has one of the best special teams in the entire country, definitely in the Big Ten. Um, they have a proven kicker in Drew Stevens, who did take a step back last year, but hopefully with his offseason in the weight room, he will improve. Hopefully he gets his confidence back and he'll be good to go. He's obviously shown that he can be one of the premier kickers in the Big Ten, if not the entire country. Reese Dakin has shown that he is ready to go. Will he have some hiccups? Yes, he will. But overall, I'm very confident in him. And there's a reason, as a true freshman, he is going to be the starting punter for Iowa. He's good to go. But he will not be Tory Taylor day one. Okay. And I don't think we should expect that. We just need him to be solid. That is what we need in year one. As for the kick return and punt return, I think that's probably going to be Caden Wetschin's job to lose. Iowa might put a Caleb Brown or somebody else back there here and there. But if Caden Wetschin is showing that he is reliable and doesn't have turnovers and bad decisions and things like that, and can be a difference maker, they will keep him back there. Time will tell if he's good enough to be a Riley McCarron or an Amir Smith-Marset, where literally Amir Smith-Marset was able to win games for the Iowa Hawkeyes due to his return ability. And he's doing great in the NFL as well, or he's doing okay. I take that back. He's doing okay. I mean, he's, he hasn't maybe broken through as a wide receiver, but he is able to stay on rosters due to his kick returning and punt returning prowess. Lastly, the defense. This team is loaded. This is going to be one of the best defenses in Phil Parker's tenure. Not a surprise. On every single level, the team is stacked with potential NFL talent. Every unit does have depth. Some has more than others. Some of the levels are maybe a little bit less unproven than others, but the talent is there. I think the main position group that is working through building depth is the defensive line, but the talent is there. The starting talent is there. Does Iowa have, much like the offensive line, does Iowa have an AJ Epinesa currently or a Lucas Van Ness? Not right now. But can it happen? Can Deontay Craig or Ethan Hurkett or Aaron Graves turn into an all Big Ten caliber disruptor? Yes, I believe so. Time will tell if that happens. But everywhere else on the field is a ton of talent. The only concern that I have as of now is hopefully all the guys on the back end, the secondary, will be good to go, as they have been battling injuries. Xavier Wanpa, I think Cohen Entringer got injured. Sorry, guys, my allergies are killing me. And Iowa is still not decided on who the second cornerback will be opposite Jamari Harris. So we'll see who that is. It's coming down to Deshaun Lee, TJ Hall, and John Nestor. For a while there, it looked like it was going to be John Nestor, as he was listed at the 1. But it sounds like currently TJ Hall is number 1. All right, guys, let's get to the game-by-game predictions here. So I'm actually going to show 247 Sports game-by-game prediction, David Eicholt and Sean Bach, and I'm going to give my assessment alongside it. But I don't know if you guys are aware of this. I think Sean Bach has me blocked on Twitter. But you guys support me, and that's all that matters. It's very interesting. When I first started this YouTube channel, I thought, it might be possible that one of these websites reaches out to me, especially if the channel is able to grow, and ask me if I want to join their team or not, or something like that. And it has not happened. I guess they don't think that way. Me, that's how I think is in terms of how can you get as much talent onto your team as possible? But anyways, all right, here we go. Iowa also had one of the best defenses in college football last season and nearly returns everyone from that defense. The offense looks to be improved under new offense coordinator Tim Lester, and we really won't know until we see it. Iowa has a favorable schedule in 2024 compared to some of its Big Ten foes. Yes, there are some tough games, and no game is easy in the Big Ten, especially on the road, but it's a schedule that sets up nicer for Iowa than some would have imagined. The big news this week was Kirk Ferentz being suspended for Iowa's season opener and against Illinois State, but it happens to be only a one-game suspension. All right, here we go. Week 1, Illinois State. Like I said, we're going to have Seth Wallace in there. This is going to be a huge measuring stick game, okay? Illinois State is not going to roll over. Iowa should win this game. Make no mistake. I kind of want to be careful saying too much about the Illinois State game just because I am going to be making in the next day or so a full game preview. But the biggest thing that I'm going to be looking for, obviously, is Tim Lester. How is this offense going to look? This is a team that they can really show week 1 that they are improved, that they are better. And of course, Seth Wallace. How will Seth Wallace look as Iowa's head coach? Obviously, I'm picking Iowa to win this game. I think I'm going to go Iowa wins this game. I'm going to go 27-10. I would love to say that Iowa's going to be able to hang 30 points on Illinois State. But I've been burned many times on that, and I'm just not going to allow that to happen until proven otherwise. All right, let's see what their prediction is for this game. The Hawkeyes won't have any problems with the Redbirds. Tim Lester won't be focused on throwing the football, and Iowa will stick with the rushing attack. I do agree with that, although I would like to see Iowa taking a few chances more than we've seen in the past. But again, it is likely that Iowa is going to play this game reserved, and that is why I'm not picking Iowa to hang 30 points. And if they are able to score over 24 points, it will be on the shoulders of the run game. He's going Iowa 42, Illinois State 10. Wow, I'm a little surprised by that. And Sean Bach is going 35-7. No Kirk Ferentz, no problem. Iowa should have no issue with Illinois State, but the Redbirds returned 9 of their 11 starters on defense from last year. Jake Rubley, a name that Iowa fans remember, is the starting quarterback for Illinois State. And it also has an all-conference running back. Who is Jake Rubley? Who is that? Is he the former Kansas State? Yep. Former Kansas State quarterback out of the state of Iowa. Wow. All right. Next, Iowa versus Iowa State. This is a home game. I think Iowa State does have some talent, and this is going to be a great test. Iowa, I think, is the more talented team. They're at home. Not that, crazy things don't happen. And this game is almost always closer than it should be. I have underestimated Iowa State in the past before, but I am going to go Iowa winning this game 24-14. Here is my prediction there. You guys can see my 2 predictions thus far. Let's see what they say. Iowa State has among the most returning production in the country and will be a dangerous threat when they come into Iowa City. This will also be the first game that Iowa gets wide receiver Caleb Brown back after a suspension. He picks Iowa to win this 20-13, very similar to my score. And Bach picks Iowa to win 24-20. Next game, Iowa versus Troy. This will be a nice little middle tier test. Obviously, I like Iowa in this one. Again, another chance for the offense to show its improvements. On this one, I'm going to go Iowa wins this game 30-10. Okay. I am going to take a flyer on the 30-point performance. Although I'm weary of it, I am going to go 30-10. Let's get this on here. Iowa versus Troy. W 30-10. And then, of course, iColt says 38-6. He says, I'm against Sean here because I think this should be another game that Iowa rolls in. The Hawkeyes will be able to continue to generate points in this one. And Sean Bach has it 24-3. Troy can give Iowa a challenge. The Trojans are a new look team after losing their head coach in John Sumrall, who led them to back-to-back double-digit wins. So yeah, this will be a tougher challenge. But again, Iowa should have no. You guys got to understand. In my predictions, a majority of my prediction is based off of the talent that Iowa has, and are they more talented than the team that they are facing, and what they should do because of it. So, all right, Iowa versus Minnesota on the road. This is going to be a crucial game in determining the outcome of Iowa's season. Obviously, the divisions are gone, but again, it's going to be a crucial game. It's a rivalry game. It's the first Big Ten game. PJ Fleck has not had success against Iowa. In fact, I'm not sure. Actually, I think last year was the first time that they won in several years. Iowa's obviously going to be looking to have some revenge for last year's loss. But I am going to take Iowa in this one 24-14 again. I would be surprised if Iowa is able to score over 24. Eichholt has Iowa winning 27-10, and Sean Bach has Iowa winning 27-13. Wow. A lot of disrespect for Minnesota here. There aren't a ton of expectations for Minnesota this season. The Gophers passing game has struggled the last few seasons, and they brought in a new quarterback from the FCS ranks to run the show. Darius Taylor is still a beast, but the defense concerns me a bit. All right, let's get this in here. W 24-10. All right. Let's get going to the next one here. Iowa versus Ohio State. If this was at Iowa, I would be far more willing to go ahead and go with Iowa, because I do think the talent is comparable. Obviously, Ohio State has more talent, but if Iowa was able to play a clean game, if Brian Ferentz was still here, either way, home or away, I wouldn't be picking the Hawkeyes. They just can't score enough points. But this is going to be the true test for Tim Lester. And I mean, every game is going to be a test for him, but this is going to be the first like major test that we're able to see the difference between him and Brian Ferentz. Is how he's able to do against the likes of Ohio State and the Michigans and the Penn State, because that is why he lost his job. He lost his job because against the premier teams, Iowa, it was a penciled in loss because they couldn't score points. I'm going to take Ohio State in this one just because they are at home. 24 to, let's go 17. I think if Iowa can keep it in a single digit, it will go a long way in the rankings, but 24-17. Eichholt has Ohio State winning 34-16. And of course, Sean Bach has Ohio State winning 24-10. So very similar to mine. You know, obviously Iowa's defense is great. Obviously, in my thing, I should have but don't worry about it. You know, Iowa's defense hopefully can hold them to below 30. But this is all going to be about the offense. And can Iowa actually move the ball against a premier ball club? The next game versus Washington. This is going to be a fun game. Pac-12 first new opponent game for Iowa. Washington is going to be okay to solid. They're not as good as they were last year. I'm going to pick Iowa to win this game. I'll go 25-20 in this one. He's got it 20. Eichholt has it 27-17, and Bach has it 17-10. Not bad. All right, guys, and here are the remainders of my pick. For time reasons, I got to speed this up a little bit. Iowa versus Michigan State. I have Iowa winning that 27-13. we'll see how Michigan State looks this year, especially with the new coaching regime. Iowa versus Northwestern. I have Iowa winning that 30-15. I think they get the double-digit victory, although Iowa has had trouble with Northwestern in the past. And Northwestern, with their new coach who had much more success than people predicted, that will be something to pay attention to. Iowa versus Wisconsin. I think Iowa gets the victory again. Obviously, that's going to be a tricky game. Iowa 28-20. I have Iowa losing to UCLA, although I just want to make it known, I can see Iowa winning 11 games. I really can. But I think what's more likely is a 10-2 season. And depending on how Iowa does against Ohio State will determine whether they play in the college football playoff or not. I have Iowa losing 25-23. But again, depending on how Iowa does early in the season, I can see them winning 11 games. But as of now, that's how I see it. Iowa versus Maryland, a win 30-15, double-digit victory. And then Iowa versus Nebraska, win 25-22 versus potentially the 5-star quarterback, Dylan Raiola. Let's look at, just to finish this up, let's look at the rest from Sean Bach and them. They have Iowa versus Michigan State. Eichholt has Iowa 17, Michigan State 10. Bach has it 20-17. Iowa versus Northwestern. David Braun was a tremendous story last season. He has Iowa winning 24-10. And Bach has Iowa winning 27-7. And I agree with that. While I think Evan Braun is a much better coach than a lot of people realize. I just don't think they have the talent that Iowa does currently. Iowa versus Wisconsin. Eichholt loves Wisconsin. He always picks Wisconsin. He has Iowa losing 24-20. And it looks like it's a home game. Yeah, it's a home game for Iowa. So I'm very surprised that he's picking. I'm not a believer in Tyler Van Dyke. He hasn't been able to get it done. But I am a believer in Wisconsin head coach Luke Fickell. Yeah, he definitely loves Luke Fickell. I'm not sure how great the Badgers will be this season, but I do know that this is a respectable rivalry, and each game goes until the end. Iowa's due for a let-up game. Bach has Iowa winning 28-23. I definitely agree with him. We have UCLA here. After a big loss to Wisconsin, Iowa will have a strong response. He has Iowa winning 31-13. And Bach has Iowa 20-10. He says, I worry about this stretch a bit. This is where I could see the Hawkeyes struggling. Iowa always seems to win a game, but it shouldn't, as well as lose a game. I don't think UCLA is that game. Maryland, Iowa 24, Maryland 20. And this is the game that Bach thinks Iowa loses. Maryland 17, Iowa 14. Man, the storylines going into this game will be overhyped with Brian Ferentz now being on the staff at Maryland as an analyst. Back to the game. The Terrapins are an interesting team. Quarterback play is the main question. And then lastly, Iowa versus Nebraska. Iowa 24-20 for Eichholt with a record of 10-2. And Bach, Iowa 20, Nebraska 13 with a record of 10-2. And that's what I have too. I think 10-2 is what Iowa should be looking for. And they will have a chance to make the college football playoff. Obviously, with a game here or there, it can go both ways. I can see Iowa, the one. I don't think they're going to beat Ohio State, but the loss that I have to UCLA, as you know, Bach has it against Maryland, and Eichholt has it against Wisconsin. Those are games that are winnable, but they are correct. Iowa does seem to lose a game that they shouldn't. So, but depending on how the season goes, how the offense looks, how the run game look, this is a season that Iowa can win 11 games, and I wouldn't be surprised. So that is my expectation for the Iowa Hawkeyes and the prediction. They have a really talented team. I think anywhere from 9-11 wins is what the Iowa Hawkeyes should be shooting for in the regular season this year. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to smash the subscribe button, like, comment, share. You guys know the drill. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy who alone facts your feelings, because your feelings just matter. I love you, Hawk fans. See you guys next time for the game preview against Illinois State. See you guys next time. Go Hawks. Bye-bye.